Hail, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome back to the Excarnating the Lamb video series. Today we will be excarnating the Lamb a little further. Um, as you may have noticed, it's been about 3-4 weeks since I have last made a video, which was shortly before New Year's. The reason for this is because I have been busy with my initiation into Lagus, which has turned out to be a, well, rather significant rune in many ways. Not just a rune of healing, but also a rune of retribution. But of course I will discuss this more in the appropriate video. However, I have another treat for you, especially for you LDS people, you people who may or may not have been Mormon at one point in your life. It recently came to my attention that Mormons, or of course adherents to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who I will informally refer to as Mormons or the LDS Church throughout this video if you don't mind, for ease of reference, they do a lot more upon your acceptance into the religion than just baptism. There are rituals that you apparently undergo that go beyond baptism, that go beyond most Christian denominations. And this recently, as mentioned, came to my attention through a friend of mine who is also partially, well, a fellow practitioner. And she came to me and she asked me, because I helped her do the unbaptism and denunciation as well. She was one of the people that I originally designed those rituals for. And she came to me and said to me, you know what, I know you've helped me with all this stuff already, and, thank you so much for that. But I was just reminded, after I was digging through my closet, that there were all these temple garments that were just sitting there, and I had completely forgotten about it. So she apparently had this entire ritual done where she was dressed up in this specific garment. They differ, by the way, for male and female, as I'm sure if you are or used to be a Mormon, even though you may not consider yourself a Mormon anymore these days, is irrelevant, of course, because otherwise you would not be engaging with the ritual in this video. So she came to me with this, and she started talking to me about how this ritual was, and about these worlds that you go through, the celestial, and the terrestrial, and then the celestial, and then the outer darkness, which is where all the fallen believers reside and stuff like that. And she told me that she had to make covenants, and that she had to take up these tokens of priesthood and stuff like that. And this seemed to be the case for both men and women. There were minor things that differed throughout the ritual. But it is my understanding that these rituals are therefore uniform for both male and female. So regardless of whether you are male or female, I recommend that if you want to strip yourself entirely spiritually clean from the influence of the LDS Church, from the influence of Elohim, as Mormons apparently call Yahweh, or the chief deity, God the Father, that you work through this ritual, and that you will symbolically and systematically give up these tokens, these priesthoods, that you give up these covenants, and that you will therefore, as a result, be free entirely. Because, again, if you are a Mormon, or used to be a Mormon, even though you may have even done my unbaptism, you may have even done my denunciation, and that is a great thing. I appreciate that you freed yourself from these things. However, again, I did not notice because I have never been a Mormon. Mormonism is not that common in European countries, and for the vast majority of my life I have lived in a European country because I was born there. But yeah, so my recent experiences with Mormonism and the research that I have done into it, and from talking to my friend who was a devout Mormon for quite a while, because she's quite a few years older than I am. But basically, do yourself a favor, work through this ritual, give back these covenants, give back these tokens, and strip yourself of the spiritual imprisonment in which you will still find yourself on some level. Because again, these are very specific covenants that you agree to uphold. These are very specific positions in Elohim's or Yahweh's hierarchy that you have entered yourself into. They are ritualistic devotions, ritualistic dedications that if you want to be free and want to make full use of your magical, spiritual capabilities and gifts, and that you want to fully take back control of your life without Elohim/Yahweh being brought back, if you want these influences brought back from his grasp into your own palm of your hand, and thus liberate yourself spiritually from spiritual bondage and slavery, I very strongly recommend that you do that. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is quite mandatory that you do it, because it's been pretty fucking crazy. My friend, when we were doing the ritual, and I have footage of the ritual, we recorded the entire ritual. I will show you segments throughout the video. I will be showing you transcripts of what to say and what to do and how to execute it. And I will be giving you a list of required materials and items and stuff like that that you can use for this ritual. Do it however you see fit, as long as you work through the ritual proper in the manner in which I have laying it out for you. The reason I say that is because I have never heard of anybody doing something like this. I mean, I know that the Satanic Church or the Church of Satan has done, unbaptisms and stuff like that, which I've also uploaded on my channel. But I don't think I've ever heard of anybody who has basically done what I've done with my friend. And I'm not saying that it's never happened, of course, but yeah, I do believe that this is a necessary piece of information for those of you who are, Mormons, or who were Mormons once upon a time, who may still find themselves with energetic links that are unwanted to the God of Christianity. Who in Mormonism is referred to as Elohim, of course. And then you have Jehovah and Michael. And of course, I myself was once upon a time a Jehovah's Witness, which I found very interesting, because apparently Jehovah is considered a lower being than Elohim, but Elohim is of course a different name for Yahweh, if you look at it. But we will be going by the Mormon definition just to cover all our bases, just to cover all our tracks, and yeah, we will be working you through all this stuff. So I suggest that we begin, and I will first give you a list of materials that you ideally will have for the purpose of this ritual. So the very first thing that I want you to gather is your full temple garments, insofar as that you still possess all the pieces. Now, what I mean by that is my friend, as you may notice in the video segments that I will be showing you, because she is on screen all the time. You will see me walking around, and there's not anything fancy that I'm wearing. I'm literally just in my everyday clothing. I'm just wearing a sweater, a hoodie. I'm just wearing pants. And if you have a bear hide for sale that I can put on my head, please by all means let me know, though, because I would love to have that. But yeah, at the same time, my friend was there sitting in the remnants of her ritual temple garments, in which she was inducted into these covenants, in which she was inducted into these laws and initiations and stuff like that she had to go through. So insofar as you still have the pieces, even if they are just a few pieces that you may still have, use them for this ritual. If you have any other pieces of property like jewelry that were used in this ritual, use it, wear it. And I know that you may not like wearing it. In fact, it is, from what I've seen, actually quite dangerous to wear them, which is why I recommend that you do it with helpers, with oversight, with two quote-unquote witnesses. Myself and my roommate were witnesses for my friend, as you will notice in my video segments that I will be weaving into this video. But it is possible for you to do it alone. However, I do recommend that the second portion of this list, therefore, if you cannot get two witnesses, even if one of them is the presider, as was the case with us, I was the one presiding and served also as a witness because I, asked these questions, and I, of course, also therefore received the answers. My friend, my roommate, was the other witness, so two witnesses, because that is a common theme in Christianity, of course. Two witnesses are required for a lot of things. Yeah, if you can't get physical people to help, I recommend that you call on a deity or deities of your choice. A pagan one, obviously, or whatever kind of deity that is not affiliated with Christianity, because you would literally be screwing yourself over if you, called on a Christian or Abrahamic being. So if you do that, yeah, ask them to help you, to protect you, to give you the strength that you need, or help you find it within yourself, as we are in the Germanic tradition so fond of saying, to stand up to the influences that are going to be coming through, because there are going to be some nasty influences that are out to get you. My friend literally said that as soon as she found these garments again, and because she's a witch, she does all this magic stuff with us, and we have actively taken action against Yahweh, against Abrahamic religions. We actively campaign against it, both spiritually and physically. But she said a week before we actually did this ritual that she felt like she was dying ever since that she touched these garments, like there was something in her that was basically cursing her to to just knock her off her rocker permanently, basically. And basically what happened is I sat down one night and I started typing this ritual out, because I had to research it, and I basically just sat up, pulled an all-nighter, and the very next day, a couple hours after that, we went home with her. On the way here, we nearly got into a couple accidents, and it was quite interesting because all this stuff suddenly starts going wrong, and yeah, I don't know. It was quite amusing. Because as these things go, this is usually how it goes. If there's some significant event happening in such a manner, like a denunciation or whatever, there you can always tell that there's a pushback. There's always a counter that starts happening. So I very strongly do recommend that if you are a lone soul practitioner, that you make sure that you have spiritual protection at the very least. Now, if you are not someone who actively works with large groups of spirits like I do, then I definitely recommend that you consult a deity and ask for that increased protection, that maybe the deity themselves can, preside over the ritual, or that they can at least offer you the protection and the observance that you may want for this ritual. So that's something I do want to say here as a bit of a footnote on the two witness requirement. It is not necessarily necessary, uh, but at the same time, it's recommended to have at least two people there with you. One of them who may be the presiding leader of the ritual. So yeah, in my personal opinion, it doesn't really matter who it is as long as they are capable of reacting to magical attacks, to spiritual attacks, and stuff like that, which I am. So therefore I presided over the ritual. And my friend is too, by the way, who also witnessed. So not to discredit my friend there, of course, absolutely not. But so that is something that you should consider how you want to do that. It's a very important part, I would say, actually. And a strong caution. This ritual can be dangerous. Why? Because the moment that we started, the moment that my friend had dressed up in her ritual garments, these temple garments, um, she started experiencing all these weird pains all over the place. She felt like she was fainting. She felt like she couldn't speak. She had a band around her throat that was tightening, she said. It felt like she was being choked. She had all these stabs all over the place in her heart and everywhere and in the palms of her hands, which is going to be very interesting, by the way, because pain in the palms is going to be a very significant thing. Now, I'm not sure how well you as an individual remember this specific ritualistic initiation that you did, but if you recently conducted it, or if you have a good memory, you will certainly, recognize all these different things. So what you will also need is a ritual knife of some sort, and it can be as, let's see where the camera is, and it can be as small as this. It's just a basic regular ritual knife, or if you really want to, you can go all hardcore and just, and yes, I'm totally using this as an excuse to show off my beautiful Viking sword over here, but you can use that, or you can use a sword, or at least something that can be used symbolically to basically cut out a certain portion of the ritual, and more clarity will come on that later. Now, if you haven't made the connection yet, crucifixion, palms of the hands, cutting stuff out. Okay, so it's basically going to be a ritual removal of the crucifixion nails. So what you will also need is a memento mori, a reminder of death, as they say in necromancy. This is, of course, a fake skull. You can buy these on Amazon for, I don't know, what are they, 15, 20 bucks, something like that. So, Mr. Bones over here can assist you. What are you going to do with Mr. Bones or Mrs. Bones? You can use them to channel the energy into, which means that you can, you use them as a conduit for unwanted energy, as a sort of, this is what I'm letting go of, this is what is dying, this is what is leaving me, this is a portion of my life that is closed, stuff like that. I personally just had it sit on the altar that I made. It was a makeshift altar. It's not actually my own altar. It was just a table that I decked out in candles and incense and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a focal point for the energy to basically gather as it was leaving my friend. What you will also need is, again, the assistance of trusted spirits who work either with you or who work with a deity that you intimately trust. And part of the reason is that you will be giving the objects that you are removing, such as the tokens of the Aaronic priesthood. And if you remember your initiation, you will know what these terms mean. The tokens of the Aaronic priesthood, the first and the second one, you will be giving that back. You will be removing the sign of the cross, the sign of the nail. If that's the accurate name from the top of my head, I have it written down, don't worry. You will remove that, and then you will give it to that particular spirit so that they can, take it away from you, so that you will not be influenced by its effects anymore. And you will also want to ask them for healing of your energetic body, which is not going to probably happen instantaneously. It will probably take a couple days to maybe a week for it to fully heal. So I would recommend that after you remove these tokens and symbols and stuff like that and signs, that you take some rest when it comes to magic, because of course the palms of your hands are where you channel energy partially. So beware on how much energy you use and how you work your magic with these wounds there. So that is another thing that you should probably keep in mind. So what I would recommend is, as I said, some incense, some candles, 6 candles, and 3 incense sticks should cover it. Now, of course, that is because I'm from the Germanic tradition. 9 is a sacred number. 3 fold 3, of course. Another reason I'm choosing 6 candles is because, well, you know, the infamous 666. I consider it a nice fuck you to use that number. So 6 candles, white to call down the energies of your spirit, black to symbolize the death of your Mormon past, to also symbolize protection from it, purple to symbolize your highest main chakra, the crown chakra, of course, the red for your root chakra. And there's a reason that I'm choosing these specifically, because there is a portion in the ritual that requires you to basically give up control of your chakras. It may not specifically be phrased that way, but it is basically what you are doing. But we will get to that in time, of course. So I would also recommend that brown is there, because it is grounding. Abrahamic energies, it is often very, very unnaturally high vibration. Therefore, you will want to have something as a focus point to help you, you know, channel your grounding energy so that you don't find yourself overtaken by this particular energy. Now, again, of course, it is ritual. It all comes from within at the end of the day. So theoretically, you don't actually need all this stuff. But, you know, if you want to set up a nice ritual space, these are the symbolisms that I recommend that you go for. And lastly, the last candle color, you can come up with this yourself. I would personally recommend a blue candle, both because it represents healing, of course, and at the same time because it represents your throat chakra. And the reason I say that is because the very first thing that you are going to be unblocking, or unlocking, I should say, or both terms are actually valid now that I think about it. Your throat chakra is going to be the first one to be unbound, which I found very interesting because the way I had written the ritual does that in a very overt manner, and you will see that. But it was also the first area where my friend started actually feeling threatened, where she started feeling like she was being actively choked. And I believe that you will hear that in the video as well. I'm not sure if it's audible, but I'm pretty sure that she actually makes a mention of it, if I recall correctly. Where she basically, you know, starts saying like, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like there's like a band around my neck and stuff like that. So please keep that in mind. Don't freak out. I personally do believe that it's intimidation tactics, not unknown to me personally either as well. So yeah, use any color that you want for the last one. I would personally recommend blue for the reasons I have outlined. Another good color would be green. It's more grounding. It's also abundance, but it's also for the heart chakra. So speaking from the heart, if you will. So 3 sticks of incense. Make it as quote-unquote blasphemous as you want. Use pagan incense. Use black magic incense. Use incenses of your own design. If you use like handmade incense and not incense sticks, be my guest. You know, as long as you give it the appropriate meaning, of course, that you will need for a ritual. You need, of course, a lighter, matches, something thereabouts. You are probably not used to this from me, but I will not have you write anything in this ritual. The reason for this is because the way my friend explained it to me, and from my research into it, because, I mean, it's supposed to be a secret initiation and nobody's supposed to speak of it, but thank the gods that there are people who actively do write about it because they're, you know, either heretics or because they, well, feel the need to share it for whatever reason. It was, to my understanding, done verbally and with handshakes and hand gestures, and through acting out certain movements physically, which are, of course, the tokens and of Melchizedek and Aaron and, you know, stuff like that. So we will all be getting into all these specific details later on, but you will not be writing anything. It's not going to be like the unbaptism or the denunciation where you are going to write a statement of this is my intent and then burning it. It is not like that. You are actively just going to be performing a reversal ritual, as it were, in sequence, or at least in the sequence that I deemed it most fit, to reverse it. I do, however, also recommend that you, for the vast majority of this ritual, for the reasons that I have already outlined, the side effects and the symptoms that my friend started having, like dizziness, lightheadedness, feelings of being choked, etc., that you sit down. Whether that is in a chair or whether that is in your ritual circle is not my business. Figure that out yourself. Do whatever feels right to you, basically. I also recommend that you print the words out from the ritual, especially if you are the one doing it by yourself, especially if there is no other witness and or presider over this ritual that you will be performing for yourself. So, and again, because I understand the struggles of being a sole practitioner, because for a while I was one, so this ritual is designed in such a way that you can do it yourself, but I do recommend that you basically just print shit out. I recommend that you just, later on in the video where I show you the text, that you just copy it, write it down, and then you have just, your notes with you in the ritual circle, and you read from it where necessary, and you will answer as you see fit, basically, because that is something that you need to make your own mind up about on the statements that you wish to give. What I will be showing you now is basically going to be the ritual with a rough transcript of the questions that I asked, the things that I had my friend repeat, and the symbolism that will be a part of this ritual. So I recommend that you just watch it, and that you basically roughly follow the outlines of this ritual. However, what is important is that you make the handshakes, the tokens, and that you inverse them. In other words, a lot of the cases I've noticed with these handshakes is that they are turned like inward, but you are basically just going to turn them upside down. You're giving them away. You're distancing yourself from it. That is, at the end of the day, what you are doing. You are ritualistically, in sequence, denouncing all the tokens and signs and covenants that you have established through this ritual. And you are basically going to be making a ritualistic declaration that you are therefore free from the guilt and burdens. And one last thing I will say is that after my friend did all this stuff, she no longer felt like she was dying, because, like I said earlier, she did feel like she was dying. There is actually one thing that I should be giving you, and that is to the people who do not actually have the garments anymore. Now, if you remember that there are certain signs placed on different areas, there's one on the right breast, which is the square, and then one on the left breast, which is the compass. Then there is one on the navel, which is, well, the navel mark, as they call it. Then there is one on the right knee, which is the knee mark. And then there are 3 other marks that are working at the veil, but we will not be using those because we won't have a veil, obviously, here. But that won't matter because you are ritualistically giving away all these tokens and stuff anyway. Yeah, the marks that are actually on the garments itself, I believe there are 4 of them. One is on the right chest, that is the square, to repeat. The left one is the mark of the compass. It's on the left chest, or on the left breast, if you're a woman. There is the navel mark, which is on the navel, of course, and then there's one on the right knee. So if the ritual says, and you may want to make a quick note of this, by the way, so if the ritual says that you will need to make a certain handshake, which the descriptions will be provided to you. So first I will always be giving you the proper way of doing it, so you will basically be mimicking it the way that you would have done it in the temple, but you will then invert it. So if the handshake is, for example, this, and no, that's not an actual handshake, but if it's like this, what you will be doing, and it says like hold it in front of the sign of the square, what you will be doing instead is this. Okay, so you're basically giving it away, reversing it. and it will oftentimes say that you need to make it in front of the square. Okay, so if it says in front of the square, you place the actual sign right here on the right breast, and then you invert it. So keep that in mind. I will be making slight notes here and there, and I may or may not interject if I deem it necessary after editing the video to interject with bits and pieces to jump in and clarify things here. So yeah, thank you all, and I hope you have a successful undoing of this spiritual bondage stuff. So good luck to you. Hell.